Likutei Torah, Parshat Chukat, page Samach Beis, middle of the first column. Okay, the Alter Rebbe started the Maimed that Moshe Rabbeinu made in the Chash and the Chassidus, and whoever was bitten by the snake looked at the snake that Moshe Rabbeinu made, and they became healed. So the Alter Rebbe asked, what does it mean? What's the connection between a Nachash and looking up and all that? So he starts explaining what's the purpose of the neshama coming into the world, and he explains that the person was the whole union of tefillah is really to become closer to Hashem with Ava v'yira. And he said that's why in the first Beis Hamikdash they didn't daven because Anshe Knesset then made it in the second Beis Hamikdash, and therefore they were connected by itself. So then the Alter Rebbe starts explaining that the ultimate level of good is only when it comes down in a form that's not so good. Like he gave the mashal of the Zay's mashal of the Zaynah that tries to convince the prince to sin. It doesn't want him to sin. The same thing, the ultimate level of the test is when the neshama comes into the body, and when the neshama realizes that really everything comes from Hashem and everything therefore is good. And therefore, not only is it good, but like he said, so it says in the Medrash, Tov is the Malach HaChaim and Tov Ma'od is Malach HaMavis. Why? Because in Inyan, it's ultimately good. And like he said, the Alter Rebbe said, that's the Inyan of Yud Kei. All these seemingly bad things come to the level of Yud Kei. All the revealed code comes from the level of Vav Kei. Yud Kei is higher than Vav Kei, so obviously it comes from a higher level. This is where we're up to now. So mamish in the middle of the first column. This is the whole concept of davening. For a neshama that's in the body, neshama b'teich haguf. The neshama that's in the body, sevelas saris v'yisurim, suffers even if it's a tzaddik, even a person that doesn't sin. The fact that the neshama comes into a body is torture for the neshama. The neshama is suffering. Because the neshama itself wants to connect to Hashem. And the body doesn't allow it to. Even though it could be a holy body, it's still a body, which is restriction. The same concept, the neshama in the body is like the shechina in Golus. Now what's the Golus for Hashem? That in Golus there's a lot of wicked people, and Hashem has to deal with them. He has to sustain them.
Yeah, but Neshama realizes all these things. The body is the one that does not realize.
Correct, but the Neshama, the fact that it's in the body is suffering, even if the person doesn't sin.
But Neshama knows everything comes from the God, everything is
the
God.
Neshama understands that, yes, perfectly.
It's comforting to know that at least our neshama understands.
Yeah, something understands. Just like the galus of the Shekhinah, Hashem has to deal with all these Rishoyim. The same thing, the neshama is suffering in the body, is like he has to give sustenance to the body. And therefore, the whole purpose of the neshama is not for itself, to elevate the body from dirt, from dust. So in other words, the neshama itself, like it says in Chassidus, the expression, the neshama itself doesn't need to be perfected. The neshama is a part of Hashem. The whole purpose of the neshama coming into the body is to perfect the guf. And the neshama has to refine the body. Just like when you mine raw silver, you have to refine it. You have to get away all the junk, all the sediment. The more unsilver is mixed into the silver, the more work you have to do to refine it. You have to burn it. A greater fire, same way. The person has to separate the guf from the Yetzer Hara, and bring the body back to its source, which, as we learned in other places, is even higher than the source of the neshama. Because look at Moshe ben Amalek Mazain. Chol Mashiach Taruvis B'Ra'ah. He said, the more evil there is in the body, the more mixture of evil there is in the body. So therefore you need a greater fire. In other words, he's saying like this: in order to refine materials, gold, silver, it was called mitzaref for cord. You have to burn it out. You have to burn out all the junk, and then the pure silver remains gold, silver, all those things that you mine from the ground. Now, the more junk is mixed into the silver, the more fire you need to refine it. So he says that fire is a level of davening. Davening is instead of karbonis, right? Tefillah makom karbonis tiknu. So davening is instead of karbonis. What was the inyan of a carbon? You took the animal basically and put it on the fire, and the fire was a godly fire, and then the animal became consumed in a godly fire. So the same thing, what is the concept of tefillah? To burn, refine the nefesh habamis. How do you refine the nefesh habamis? Like you refine silver. You have to burn out all the negativity. So the fire of davening, and the more junk you have, the bigger the fire you need.
So that's good.
And it doesn't come out unless it's burned.
Correct.
Is it good? It's better to have a davening that is fiery and full intent?
Or
being kind of really...
yeah, I think that would be better. Yeah, the fiery one. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe is going back to, he said before, in Bayis Rishon they didn't daven, because Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they daven, but not the way we have it today. So he says like this, but Bayis Rishon Shelo Yirah Harbe, therefore in the first Beis Hamikdash, where there was Kedusha, the Shlomo Melech's time, all that, they didn't need a fiery davening, Kim Kol Maseim, everything they did, not only davening, everything they did was b'chal lahavi arav adinim al shosham ayrei karbanis hayadayim. So then the karbanis were enough in Bayis Rishon. They didn't need davening because they didn't have so much junk to burn out. Avo b'Bayis Sheni hischilu l'sakinat tefillah. They initiated the concept of davening. V'haritzak sada, and it was still in a bridge form of davening. Okay, so therefore, davening even in Bayis Sheni was not, I'll explain in a second, was not the same way it is now. Now we need davening even more. In other words, like this, even at the time of the Gemara, or even time of the Mishnah, Rav Shimon Yochai didn't daven. It was called Terasi Nasi. You know, the Alter Rebbe says in the cave they did daven, but that was before he reached the level of ultimate that he didn't daven. So Rav Shimon Yochai didn't daven. People that were Terasi Nasi, Torah was their business. In other words, they didn't do anything but learning Torah. They didn't daven so much. The Gemara says Rav Yehuda, Shmuel's, the Nav's Talmud, Rav Yehuda, would daven once every 30 days. Every 30 days he would review all his learning, so then he would daven before he learned. Other people didn't daven b'chlal. Now we don't have that level. Now we have to daven.
Some of us do.
I know. We're not speaking about the unique individuals that were in the olden times of the Bayis Rishon. So what it means is like this. So nowadays, we need davening more. Those people that Terasim Nosei had very little evil within them that they had to refine. You know, they didn't have to refine it. Their learning did it. Just the way they were. But now later, that's why it's interesting. In the earlier generations, the primary thing was learning Torah. Then the Arizal came, the Baal Shem Tov came onto the scene. They instituted basically the level of davening. By Chassidim, they used to daven long. I mean, even in time of the Gemara, you have the Chassidim Rishonim used to daven 9 hours a day. 3 hours Shachris, 3 hours Mincha, 3 hours Ma'ariv.
When they have time to work, Rabbi?
No, the Gemara doesn't ask that. The Gemara asks when do they have time to learn. Anyway, but let's not get into that. So Now, in our generation, the emphasis is not so much on davening as it is on action. Because as we're getting closer to Mashiach, we started off learning, let's see, his Torah, his machshava, learning, and then Dibur, and then Maisa. Same thing as generations keep going down. We need to daven with a stronger burn. Because of more evil that exists in every generation, you need a stronger davening. To refine the evil what's within it, bring it back to the source. Again, Kamashal ben Amelech Mazena. Sheyachshav, you should realize that even the existence of evil is coming from Hashem. Because without that, he wouldn't be able to live. Therefore, there is no evil. Evil doesn't exist. All the suffering of this world, now when he thinks about it, all the Inyan of evil will not exist. In other words, Al-Tareb is explaining that it's incumbent and mandatory upon a Jew to realize that there is no evil in this world. It's only good. Like Nochem ish gamzu. He says like this. Okay? Tzaddikim on that level, they saw that there is no evil in the world. Everything is Kedusha. Rak Nochem ish gamzu hayochel ish shalnis am shachas mumayla lamata. Nochem ish gamzu, he said, revealed that down here should be seen the way the bad is good. Because of the famous story in the Gemara when the Jews needed to send a gift to the Roman emperor. Yeah? It's very disturbing. I told you that many times. But you keep doing it. Anyway, the Jews had to send a gift to the Roman emperor. So they said, Nochem ish gamzu. Okay, with a box full of diamonds. It's a famous Gemara, right? And the innkeeper switched the diamonds for dirt. And so what did Nochem ish gamzu say? Gamzu l'teva. Okay, he came to the emperor to give him the stick. He opened his mud, dirt. He was fuming. So they wished to send down a malach to tell him, no, this is special dirt from Avram Avinu. When he fought the 4 kings against the 5 kings, he threw the dirt at him, and it was much better, and they won the whole thing. So the king did it, and the taka worked. Then where he went back to the innkeeper, okay, whatever it was. So what did Nochem ish gamzu show? Nochem ish gamzu showed that this bad that happened, the guy stole the diamonds and put dirt instead. He openly saw that was good. It wasn't like we believe whatever Hashem does is bad, it's good. He actually showed it down the matter.
Is the reason he saw it this way created what happened? If he wouldn't see it this way, would it happen? Is it what he's saying?
Al Rebbe is not saying that, but it's not necessarily not true what you're saying. Tracht gut wird sein gut. Right. The Rebbe says, the Tzemach Tzedek said that, Tracht gut wird sein, but the Rebbe explains that's not stam a slogan. Thinking good makes it good. Now, did the dirt work because Nochem ish gamzu said gamzu l'teva? Maybe.
Are we supposed to live with the perspective of Shoresh?
I don't hear you. What?
Are we supposed to live with the perspective of everything in Shoresh? We're supposed to
Yes. Not everything is on Shoresh. We don't have to look at everything in the Shoresh. We have to realize, in other words, like this. If a Jew really believes in Hashem, not say, I believe. They really believe in Hashem, and they believe everything is Hashem, and the Emunah is internalized through Moshe Rabbeinu, after Tetzaveh. So then a person sees that everything is good. He sees that everything is good. Because if you believe in Hashem, and you understand that Hashem is good, ultimate good, and no evil comes from Hashem, so if you really believe in Hashem, you see it and you feel that there is no bad. Bad is only, by the way, bad is only not what happens to us. We do bad. In other words, when we do what we're not allowed to do, so we do evil. But no evil happens to us. And even when we do evil and Hashem punishes for us for that, that punishment is a cleansing, so it's also good. It's surgery, basically. Which if you need it, it's good.
We want good in our dollar amas.
What?
We want to see the good in our dollar amas.
Yeah, therefore, when he said gamzu, it's like zeh, right? Zu is the Aramaic for zeh. Zu is this, he's pointing to it and saying this is good. Okay, skip to the top of the next column. I will call that tzaddikim. Afilu shoyim machshaveisim al derech zeh. Even all the other, the Alter Rebbe has explained the uniqueness of Nochem Ish Gamzu. All the other tzaddikim, even though in their minds they had that level, but it would stay, like betchilu b'li musig, not visible, not understood. So he says, this is the ultimate purpose of a Jew's neshama, to come into the world, to see that there isn't anything in the world that's not good. That's the whole inyan nechasha necheshes. They had to put it on the banner. By the way, that's like we mentioned in the class, that's the slogan, not the logo of a doctor. Yeah. That's pushed from this week's Parsha. Meaning, you have to elevate the nachash, which resembles sin, right? The original sin. The mistak in klapi maila klemed. You shouldn't think that evil is separated. Nachash is synonymous with evil. That it's separated, and therefore it's evil, and therefore it remains evil. But when you look at the nachash, and that's what he says, Mistaklin klapi maila, the Alter Rebbe at the beginning of the Maimon asked, what's the connection between the nachash and looking up? He said nachash represents sin, right? The nachash kadmoni. And now you look up, meaning you realize that even evil is klapi maila. You're looking up and you see that it's really Hashem. It's good. It's not at all separate from Hashem. And the life of evil is like the Mashal Zainam ben Malach Hanal. Im kain ein ra yedid mumayla. Lo chaynoye necheshes. Shemishtana lekamigavin ayidei ayin v'maskel yavin. V'mevin yavin. Okay, then the rest is a parenthesis. But the Alter Rebbe is explaining that the whole inyan of the Nachash is the realization that anything that happens in the world is good. And that's the purpose of the neshama coming into the body, to burn the body with tefillah, to get rid of all the junk and all the sediments. And the realization is that even the Nachash is on this lofty level.
The expression Hamevin Yavin.
What?
The expression Hamevin Yavin excludes people like me.
Yeah.
Rabbi, what does it mean that the snake changes into
It says, obviously it's a medrash, I don't know. That changes into many colors.
Why couldn't be something else? Why is the snake chosen to be there?
Because the snake represents the whole concept of evil. Bringing evil in the world that we have to refine. Before Chetei Tzedas, good and bad were separate, so there was no refining necessary to refine the good from the bad because it was completely separate. The Nachash mixed good and bad. So if the Nachash mixed good and bad, so now there's bad in the good that needs to be refined. That's why we have to...
So the snake that caused the mixing can also cause the unmixing.
Correct.
Rabbi,
Yeah?
if somebody is in jail, how is analyzed as a good thing? If somebody is captured and put in jail,
Suffering.
how do we analyze it to be a good thing?
Did Hashem make it happen?
Yes.
Then it is good. Now, whether I understand it or not is my problem, not the reality of the situation. So if I don't understand it, that's because I'm a native that knows nothing about medicine walking into an operating room. When the Friedrich Rebbe was put into prison as an 11-year-old kid, the Friedrich Rebbe was arrested many times. First time he was an 11-year-old kid. When he saw a Russian, it's in communist Russia, he saw a Russian beating up a Jew, and he pushed the Russian soldier away, and he ripped off his button from the uniform. So it was a terrible offense. So the Friedrich Rebbe, 11 years old, was put into prison. And all of a sudden he realizes he was in prison with a goat. It wasn't today's country clubs, okay? It was the goat that the guy who was fighting with the Jew. But anyway, so the Friedrich Rebbe, this 11-year-old kid, said to himself, I'm sitting here with a goat, and if I don't say Torah, I'm not any different than the goat. So he knew a lot of Mishnayos by heart, right? So he was saying Mishnayos by heart in the prison, because otherwise he realized, why am I better than the goat? Okay? There's reason why Hashem put a person into prison. I don't know the reason. But one thing I know, it's good. I don't understand it's good. That's my problem. It's my issue, not Hashem's issue.
But Rabbi, you can't say that for other people's problems, because then we come off as being insensitive. We can only talk about this for your
We're talking about what happens to the person himself. Person himself, but even for somebody else, I have to scream to Hashem why you're doing it, all that, because that's what He wants us to do. But the bottom line is, whether I understand it or not, is it good what Hashem does to that person? Yeah. I want Hashem to show and reveal good, so Hashem wants me to scream at Hashem, why are you doing it? But again, bottom line, is it good or bad? It's good. I don't understand it. Again, it's a big problem of mine. Okay, 1 second. Let's see where up to here. This maimer we finished. Okay, let's just start the first maimer in page Nun Vav. We're not going to finish the long maimer, but whatever. Just start. Okay, Veidaber Hashem Zeis Chukas HaTorah, page Nun Vav. Zeis Chukas HaTorah Shotziv Hashem Leimer Tzorach Lahav, and that Chilek Si Veidaber Hashem. First it says Veidaber Hashem Shakosh Baruch Hu Medaber LeMoshe Zeis Chukas HaTorah. Hashem is speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, it's a very funny expression. This, Hashem is speaking to Moshe, right? Daber b'nei Yisrael, and you say to them, Zeis Chukas HaTorah, Asher Tziva Hashem Leimer. Okay, I think I'm speaking to you. I want you to do something that I am telling you to, that Hashem is telling you to do. I mean, that whole Asher Tziva Hashem doesn't make sense. In Cain, Mao Asher Tziva Hashem, he should say Asher Ani Mitzvah. Zeis Chukas HaTorah, Asher Ani Mitzvah. Gam loving Sasin in Paraduma, that it says Zeis Chukas HaTorah. Because the question is, why does it say Zeis Chukas HaTorah? It should say Zeis Chukas HaPara. Inyan, Dina Torah, Nikra Torah Shebiksav. Torah is called Torah Shebiksav, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Eimer Moshe Kesef. Okay, there's two parts. There's Minat Torah Midrabanan. Minat Torah, Torah Shebiksav, Hashem dictated and Moshe Rabbeinu wrote. But Divrei HaSefrim, it's called Torah Shebal Peh. Okay, there's Torah, and then there's Torah Shebal Peh. Amnam Chukas HaTorah Lashon Chakika. But Chukas HaTorah, the Alter Rebbe is saying, Chukas doesn't only mean a statute, an illogical mitzvah. It actually means the expression Chakika, which means engraved. What does that mean? The way Torah is all the way in the source, Torah and the source is Eisis HaChakika, the letters of engraved letters. Madrego Yena is much greater level. from the Islabshus of a Madrega Shenikra Eisis Eksav to be called Torah Shebiksav. In other words, like this, we have what's called Torah Shebiksav. What's Torah Shebiksav? Especially Chumash, Hashem dictated and Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it. But he wrote ink and parchment, which is two separate entities. Then there's a level of Zeis Chukas HaTeira, there's a level of Teira in the source, all the way up there, that Teira is called Eisis HaChakika. What do you mean Eisis HaChakika? There's a level of, the engraved letters are part and parcel of the stone. It's not something added to the stone. It is the stone. So there's a level of Chakika, and in that level, by the way, Teira is not called Chochmas Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. Chochmas Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu is something limited in Chochmah. It's not one with Hashem, it's a limited level of Chochmah. But you have a level of Teira that's Chakika, that's the level of Teira in the source, the way Teira is mamish one with Hashem. It's mamish one with Hashem. And he says, letters written on parchment, on love and white parchment, the letters themselves are ink, which is davar zar v'nifrim me'aklaf, that has separated from the parchment. That had nothing to do, before you wrote it, the ink and the parchment have nothing to do with each other. Right? You have a pen and the paper you write on, before you write, the pen and the paper have nothing to do with each other. But when the sefer, the scribe, writes the ink with the ink and parchment, then it becomes one. But before, it's not one. And not only that, the letters can rub off. We'll see later. Is from the thing itself. And skip the 4 lines. Which is chukah through the mitzvah of paraduma, which is the ultimate, like we spoke by the class. Shlomo Melech understood all the reasons for all the mitzvahs except paraduma. And therefore Hashem said to Moshe, only to you I revealed it. So the role of the mitzvah paraduma to bring down the Eisis HaChakika of Teira, lies misham mamish yed v'nim shebechinas Eisis HaKsav, which is Teira Shebiksav, and from Teira Shebiksav it should come down even lower into Teira Shebal Peh. So in other words, what's the whole thing over here? That there should be, Paraduma is Zeis Chukas HaTeira, take the level of Chakika through Paraduma. You bring down the Eisis HaChakika into the level of Ksav, and from Torah Shebiksav it comes Torah Shebal Peh. And therefore he says, that's why does it say by Paraduma Zeis Chukas HaTeira? By Korban Pesach it says Zeis Chukas HaPesach. It doesn't say Zeis Chukas HaTeira, it should say Zeis Chukas HaPara. So the Rebbe is explaining, because Paradum is the essence of the whole Torah, and for this purpose of bringing down Chakika of Torah into Ksiva, Yardan Neshama Malkum Kveda Began Eden. V'nislav shebeguf hachumni comes into the physical body, to make Torah. What do you mean making Torah? To bring Torah from the level of Chakika into Ksiva. And that's why, like we explained Monday night, Paraduma was the only carbon, it was a carbon. They shechted it and burnt it. It was the only carbon that was done outside the Beis HaMikdash. Al-Michutz Lamachane. For Shechat Eisel Lefanav. It was the only carbon, not only because normally you can't shech the carbon outside the Beis HaMikdash. Not only were you allowed to, you had to, the whole mitzvah is b'chutz. Why? Because Paradum is bringing the level of Chakika into Tumas Mes, which is the pit of the pits. The pits of the pits, not the pizza.